Hello everyone, welcome back to Debug Diaries. I am Manarshi Jadeja, and in this episode 8 of a Blazor crash course, we are going to explore dependency injections in Blazor. So before we start, just for the better learning purposes, you guys can move to 1.5x playback speed. Yeah. So in our previous video, in the episode 7, we have covered the routing and the navigation, that with the use of pages at the rate page component, or we can say at the rate page command, how you can navigate to the different routings, how you can add the multiple routings, how you can using the navigation link, how you can using the nav link component, how you can move to the one component from the second another component. Yeah. So now in this video we are going to talk about the dependency injection. So first, what is the dependency? So the mainly uh, whenever your one object is dependent on the another object, but that object is a separately implemented or the separately defined by you, and that you want to use in your particular object one, that will be a dependency injection in the simple one term. Like if you have a one component, in that there will be a some logic that you have to perform. So to perform the some logic, you will create a one service. So what is the benefit of that? Your logic will be separate from your component. So to implement or to use that particular logic, you will, with the use of dependency injection, you will inject that particular services to your component, and then you guys are able to use that. So what is the mainly benefit of that? First we can say it is following the solid principles, means there will be a segregation with the logic and your component. Like if I'll give you an example, if you guys are going to the what we can say, if you are going to the restaurant, at that time you want to order a pizza. So at that time, if you will give an order to the particular, I can say, waiter, so what will be the happen, that your waiter will be your main, we can say, the intermediate between your component and the service. Like you are going to the restaurant will be the only component for you, waiter will be the interface, we can say, or the dependency injection that will inject the dependency or the separate module. Just for your example purposes, you have a two separate modules, you can say. One is a restaurant and second one is your chef, or we can say the kitchen, where the things are building or the food are making by the chef. So now these two different component you want to connect with each other. There is a dependency they have to inject, and that will be the waiter. That you will give an order to the waiter, and waiter go to the kitchen and take the food as you have ordered. So this is called the dependency injection. If we say that there will be a no dependency injection, then what will be the happen, that in a earlier time, if you can see that what we are doing at that time with the use of new components. Like if you have defined the services, then you will write new xyz services, and then you guys are able to do that, or you are able to inject that particular service in your program. But that will be a little bit, we can say, the difficult for us in the long going projects. How it will be a little bit difficult for us, that in between, if you want to change some logic over there, there will be a little bit difficult. If you want to implement the test cases or the unit testing, that will be a difficult for you, as every time you have to depend that you have to write that particular dependency in your component. So that will be a one part. So now regarding the dependency injection, let me first explain how you can do that dependency injection. Let's assume, okay, I have one folder services, in which let me create one service, right? What will be the name of this service? I will give GUID service. Now in this GUID service, let me create first constructor. In this constructor, okay, let me take one parameter, one property as a GUID, and I want to assign the new GUID to this particular private defined property, right? So let me do this. Now I have defined this GUID. Now I have one method. I want to create one method that will be accessible from the component. So let me create that method. Return will be GUID. Let's give a name like get GUID, and what we'll do, just in that we will return the GUID. Yeah, so this is kind of one of, I can say, the simplest logic I have written in the GUID services. That I have a one property with the GUID. In the constructor, I am assigning this new GUID property. Means you can think that I am generating new GUID in the constructor. So whenever this service is initialized, the GUID will be generated, and now get GUID will be there. Now from the component I want to use, so you can use that, let's say in the home. So this is the main thing, that your logic is separated in the service file. Now you want to use, then how you can use that? First you have to inject that particular service. To inject, so just do like GUID service. You have to add namespace. You can say GUID service. Fine. Now let's print that GUID in this h1 tag at the rate. You can say GUID service dot get GUID. Yeah, fine. So now we have defined the, we can say, dependency injection. Now our component is using the this get GUID. Now whatever the thing you want to change, or whatever the logic you want to change, that changes you have to made in the services only. There is no need to change anything in your component. So your component and your logic will be totally separated. Now afterwards, as you have already injected the dependency, you have to define the scope of this particular service. So how you can define the scope? In the program.cs you have to define your scope, like builder dot services and add. So there will be a three types of dependency injections life cycle are there. If we talk about the services life cycle, there will be a three. One will be add scoped, one will be add transient, and one will be a add singleton. So let's see the difference between all. Let me first define the singleton. So in this, let's give a GUID service. So first, the singleton means whenever I am running my project, at the initial time of the project only my service will be initialized. Afterwards there is no such a thing, initialization will be happen for this particular service. That means there will be a big drum of water. Out of that drum of water, throughout the whole process I am going to use the water. That kind of same thing is happening here, that at the initialized time I will create a one GUID, and that GUID will be used throughout the whole process until I am closing the project, or until I am rerunning that particular container. Rest it will be a same throughout the project. So now let's check. Okay, project is getting built. Yeah, now it's run. Yeah, so you can see this 50280 one GUID is generated. Now let me go to the counter, again come to the home, the GUID is same. Let me go to the weather and again come to the home, GUID is same. So whenever I am going from counter to home, there is a one new HTTP request is happening, I can say, but my GUID is same. Let me refresh the page. So even if I refresh the page, my GUID is same. That means that I have initialized my service for one single time, and that will be used throughout the application until I am closing the application or restarting the, I can say, the container. Okay, so now let me close it and run it again. So at that time it will reinitialize this particular service. If we'll put the debug here, we will get the, yeah, so we are getting the call here. So one time we will get the call here, and as we are getting, fine, so we are getting debug here. So this new GUID generated as we have restarted the project. Now if you will do the same thing, this GUID will be same as it is. Now let me define the new life cycle, and that will be, we can say that will be add transient. What is the meaning of that add transient? That for the every request, we can say for the every HTTP request, it will generate a new GUID. Like as I am in the home, let me refresh the page, new GUID is generated. Let I am going from home to counter, and again I am coming to counter to home, return back to new GUID is generated. I am going to the weather, again come back to the home. So for the every request it is generating the new GUID. So this is the transient, right? Now the third life cycle is in a scope. So what is the meaning of the scope? That for the one particular user request it will remain same, rest it will generate a new one. Like that means whenever I am refreshing the page, my new HTTP request will be generated. As you guys are already aware about that, in particular Blazor, we are just rendering the component, we are not refreshing the whole page. So that means we are not refreshing the page. That means our HTTP request will be remain same whenever we are moving from one component to another component. So as you can see, if I am going from home component to the counter and again go back to the home, there is no such a changes in my GUID. Let me go to the weather and again come back to the home, there is no such a change in my GUID. Why? That there is only one single request, one HTTP request will be initialize this particular service, and afterwards there is no any new generation of a GUID will be there, or the no any new initialization will be there. Now this is the same HTTP request is going on. So now the question is when this will be generated new one, and that is that when I will refresh this particular page, it will new generate the HTTP request. So at that time this will be new generated. Like let me refresh the page. Now you can see that my GUID is generated new times. Why? That the HTTP request is generated again. So now again let me go to the another component and come back to the home. So GUID is remains same. So I hope you guys are clear with the dependency injection. So kind of this, with the use of dependency injections, you can inject your services in your component and use your logic by making the separation. Okay, so this was all about the dependency injection. We will meet again with the new video, so just stay tuned about that. Yeah, thanks.